and this is Bob from Music Store Live, and I got the great pleasure to speak with Monte Pittman today. And I'd like to say thank you very much, Monty, for joining us today and being part of Music Store Live's Gold Rush 2014 thing this summer. Thanks for being with us today, and how's it going out there?
Thanks, man. It's going great. I can't complain, and I hope all is well there. All is well here.
Nice, cool. And where are you speaking to us from today?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, then that's a great place to start. So I got a question for you, Monty.
All right.
All right. So you write and perform a lot of really tremendous and wonderful metal music of your own. You do a lot of great solo acoustic music. You tour with Madonna, which is a pretty wonderful gig. You have a beard that would make a Viking chief jealous. And according to your website, you even are still teaching lessons. And I swear I read this on there. It says that you even make house calls. So
yes.
That, to me, means that you are not only crazy enough to do all that other stuff, but you also will drive through traffic in L.A. to do a house call for guitar lessons. So if
you'll pay the price, I'll come teach you in your living room.
Okay, gotcha, totally.
Or you can come to me, and it's a lot. It's different. But I mean, that's a luxury to have someone come to your, sit in your living room and give you guitar lessons. But I do it.
That's wild, man. I think when I read that, I'm thinking of you as leaving some session and then just being like, well, I'm just gonna go battle the worst traffic ever because I'm making a house call guitar lesson, which is just, it's wonderful. So what I wanted to ask you about that was just, you got a lot of different stuff, I'm sure, in your calendar. How do you deal with it all? How do you balance it? But basically just walk us through a day in the life, if you can.
Well, I mean, you wake up, get the kids to school and, so get ready. I'll maybe work on some music, maybe on my own music, or if I'm writing with someone else. Or, lately I've actually been doing, some production work, mixing. Like a friend of mine, he had me mix his EP, and he recorded it himself. But at first I took it on as a challenge, so I've done a couple little things like that, and the people I did that for were really happy with what I did. And for me, it's kind of a learning experience. Everything is really a learning experience. It's always a new adventure.
Sure.
So I'll get some of that work done and either go teach or do some work, plan out a show, or there could be interviews that I have to do. Every day is a little different. It's not the same thing, all the time. I wish it was. I wish I had some sort of structure where it was the same thing every day, but it hasn't worked out like that yet.
Well, that's the thing, I guess, in this business, you got to figure out something to keep it going from day to day, because I'm sure every day is wildly different. That's really cool that you are taking up doing some mixing there. Does that mean that at some point are you gonna try to get into doing some more professional production and stuff? Are you ready to try doing that on your own?
I really enjoy it, actually, and I learn something new from it every time, with every experience. You may try a different master compressor, or there may be a different way that you put the drums together, or an EQ you do on the guitar, or everything I do, I take from that and I apply it to what I do, and that enhances each situation, I guess you could say.
That's really great. I feel like that's a really natural series of events for a lot of people, or musicians, that get to spend enough time at their craft eventually.
And I mean, if you think about, I was kind of looking back, and I mean, I have worked with a lot of producers, so I've learned from a lot of people just from sitting there in the studio. Whether it be Fleming Rasmussen or Pharrell, or a wide kind of range of people. So just kind of take that and apply it. And I started treating mixes like I would treat how I run my guitar amp. Where you want it to be pushed a certain way at times, and you just find that sweet spot.
Well, that's that makes perfect sense to me. That's I hope to hear at some point sooner than later, a project that I know was produced by you, just to see what that's like. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Well, I've got a project I'm actually starting this weekend. I don't want to say what it is, but
sure.
I could be doing everything on it. So, but we'll see. But that would be interesting, and it's not like anything I've ever done before, which I love that sort of challenge. I love doing all kinds of different things, playing different kinds of music, listening to different kinds of music at different times. Well,
I noticed. I don't want to get into your album quite yet. I'm going to save this one.
Okay.
I have one question before we talk about that. But that really is such a good lead-in. I was hoping that if you wouldn't mind, and you don't have to go on about it, but I just thought that the story about how you ended up with the Madonna gig was such a great story, and I don't know that everybody knows it. So I was wondering if you would tell it in your words.
Well, I moved out to Los Angeles from Texas. I grew up in Longview, Texas, and I used to teach guitar lessons out there. My guitar teacher's name's Robert Browning, and once I kind of graduated lessons, I guess you could say, I started teaching as his apprentice, and then from there he said, okay, now you've got to go find your own students. You've got to make this work on your own. Yep. And so that's what I was doing before I moved. And when I first moved to L.A., I started working at the Guitar Center in Hollywood because I figured that would be the best place to meet musicians and just kind of be right there in the thick of it all.
Sure.
But what really shocked me is a lot of people would come in asking for guitar teachers, and we never had like a card or a number of anyone, and I didn't know why. And there was like one or two guys maybe, but the same customers would come back saying, "Hey, well, you got anybody else?" And so I was like, "Hey, well, this is what I used to, this is what I do," and so I just quit my job and I started teaching. Well, Guy Ritchie was my third student, and I got a call from his assistant. His assistant's name was Nathan, and he just said, "Hey, I need to get guitar lessons for my boss." He was asking like how long I've taught and what kind of styles do I teach. I'll teach you whatever. I can. If I don't know it, I can figure it out.
Yep.
And I started teaching Guy, and it was before Snatch came out, so I didn't really know who he was, but I went to Madonna's house to go teach him.
Yeah.
And
that was a house call. Good.
Yeah, and he started wanting lessons. I think I was teaching like 2 times a week, sometimes 3 times a week. But then me and Madonna got to know each other a little bit. I just as I was leaving or getting there, like, yeah, Guy's doing really good working on his chords.
Yep.
And so, from that, long story short, I started giving Madonna guitar lessons.
Yeah.
And I thought that maybe she would take a couple. I was like, well, she's Madonna. Why does she need guitar lessons? But she actually, just took the ball and ran with it. And then I started teaching her, 3 times a week. And she was just really into it. And she's that kind of person. Once she gets into something, she wants to know everything about it that she can.
Seems
and
it
made me a better teacher. She would ask, well, how do I hold my pick? How many times do I strum this? And I just have always thought, well, you just strum it like how you hear it.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of relearn that so I could teach that to her because, teaching guitar is a lot different than playing guitar. You have to know it in a different way. You have to know it so well that you can transmit that knowledge to the student. And it was about a month to the date from her first lesson that she invited me to come play on David Letterman with her because it's right when she had the single Don't Tell Me, right when that came out.
Oh, okay.
And, the chords are D, A minor, C, and G. So that was perfect for a beginning guitar student.
Sure,
and
yeah.
So
work your own song.
here's your own song. You could play this and sing this yourself.
Yep.
And so we did Letterman. That got a great response. And I just started going wherever she went, and she kept wanting me to give her guitar lessons. And then she said, "Hey, look, I'm going to go on tour." She hadn't been on tour in 7 years, and for all I knew, she was retired. I didn't know, not retired because she was putting out an album, but
yeah,
it's
but
not
touring,
something
sure.
that I kept up with. and I started. But she said, "Well, I'm going to go on tour. I'm going to need a guitar player, and I want you to come teach me anyway. So why don't you be my guitar player?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course, I'd love to." And so that's where that started, and I've been with her ever since. That was the first performance was at the end of 2000 that we did. That was the Letterman show, and so I've been with her ever since. But what I would do is, I started playing in the band Prong, pretty much right after I moved to LA. Okay. And I would, but then we spent a lot of time working up the songs, like just working up Prong's catalog. And then Madonna came along, and that took away from me being able to be at rehearsal, because I was with her all the time. Yep. And so throughout the 2000s, I guess, if that's what we're calling it, I would go back and forth. I would do a Madonna tour, and it's like right when that cycle was done, I would do something with Prong, and when that was done, it would be time to go back to Madonna. So I kind of juggled the two for the most part of the last decade.
Oof, that's a big juggling act. That's great.
And it's, that's another thing is with Madonna, we've pretty much played every style of music, because she always likes to do something like a different arrangement to one of her older songs. And there's the dance stuff where some of the guitar playing is very minimal, all the way to the acoustic songs, that usually has the most playing on it. Like, if you're doing like "Don't Tell Me," where you have that guitar part where the guitar is chopped up in whatever the recording format is, Pro Tools or Logic, whatever was used. Yeah. And when that first came out, there was nothing like that. Now you've heard that a lot.
Oh, okay.
And I would treat that like I would play a Prong song, where the right hand is really tight, and a lot of down picking, and I would pick it in the way where the audio file was chopped up to make that sound.
Gotcha. Well, it makes a lot of sense that somebody with your background would be the perfect guy for a job like that. When you're out on the road with Madonna, like you're saying, like the show, features a lot of different styles of music throughout the night. You have stuff that's, going back a ways. You have stuff that's much more modern sounding. You have stuff that it's more minimalist for a guitar player, and stuff that's much more involved. So somebody who's has a background in teaching and spending a lot of time in studios is a wonderful candidate for that job. It's the perfect blend right there. It's great.
It was one of those being at the right time, at the right place at the right time kind of moments.
That's awesome.
Had I moved to LA 6 months later, that phone call may not have happened.
Yeah, exactly. That's when I read that, I was like, I just got to hear this in your own words, because it's one of those stories where it's like that stuff doesn't happen every day, and when it does, you go, well, I know that was how things had to unfold one way or another. So they're in the right place at the right time. That's great. I want to change.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. I was just going to reiterate what you said.
Oh, okay. I want to make sure I change gears with enough time to talk about your album, The Power of Three. And now, before I knew I was going to get a chance to speak with you, I hadn't had a chance to spin the record yet. So I sat down, and I was at work, and I put it on, and literally the first 3 seconds came on of the first song, and I said, wow, I immediately had this vibe come over me where I was like, I feel like I am sitting here and listening to Master of Puppets for the first time when I was like, 13. I had this. I instantly. I said it to like the guys working next to me. I was at work listening, and I said, "Man, I'm getting this big Master of Puppets vibe on here. Like there's this warmth on here that I love." So I said, "I'm going to look up and see who the producer is." And then I said, "No way. This is too much. Come on." So it's really cool that you did this album with Fleming, and it sounds wonderful. I wanted to commend you on that. I thought that there's a terrific warmth to this album that I feel like can be missing at times from certain metal these days, and I really appreciated that. And I wanted to ask you about what it was like to record with Fleming and what this whole album, what it was like for you. Whatever you'd like to say about it, your process through the whole thing or writing the songs. This must have been a lot of fun.
Wow. Well, thank you for saying that. What a compliment. I'm kind of speechless, Well, Fleming is, of course, one of my favorite producers. Master of Puppets is my number one favorite album ever.
Nice.
And I met Fleming. I met him on a day off in Copenhagen, and it was kind of a funny story. I'm sitting there I didn't have anything to do. I was bored with going out, and I was like, wait, Sweet Silence Studios is from here. I wonder if I could go there and get a card or a souvenir. I wonder if they have shirts, or just something, just to see, like if you were to go to Abbey Road or one of those kind of studios, or Electric Lady or whatever. And I found the building, but there was a note on there that it was going to be demolished. And the building was getting sold, and they're tearing it down, and they were going to build a parking lot there. And so I went home, and I went back to my room, and I researched it some more, and I found Fleming's info. He had a MySpace page, and he said, hey, unfortunately the building's being sold. I'm still available for mixes. Here's my information. And so I called him, and I just said, hey, look, I know this may be a little weird, but if just wanted to invite you out in case you wanted to come to the show. We're here playing tomorrow. And I went by, and I saw the studio's getting sold. It sucks. And he was out of town, but he said his daughter would want to come to the show. So she came to the show, and we just kind of kept in touch a little bit. And, the next time I would come through town, then I got with him, and, we had a couple of beers and just talking, and I gave him my acoustic album. That's my first album, The Deepest Dark. Oh, yeah. And we kind of left it at, well, hey, one day we got to work on something together. We got to record something together one day. Well, the next time I came through, he said, hey, you got a day off. You want me to fire up the studio? And I said, well, yeah, I've got, I got all these songs. Here are these acoustic songs that I've got. Maybe we could record a couple of these. And we wound up knocking out 4 acoustic songs in one day. And that's the Power of 3. It's an EP, MP3, The Power of 3 Part 1. Oh, yeah. And then that's what I was going to do. The Power of 3 was going to be 3 parts. I had these acoustic songs, I had these heavy songs, and I had some blues songs. And I was just going to kind of have 3 different styles of music, and that'd be my third album. Okay. Well, anyway, so that's how that happened. That's how I met him and how I started working with him. Okay. But getting on to the production of The Power of 3, we had made plans after doing that EP, because I'd given him all my demos. And he said, what are these heavy songs that you have? And he said, this is what I want to record. And I was like, he's like, this is what you need to be doing. He said, all this other stuff, I love that. He goes, but there's just something different about this heavy stuff. That's you. Yeah. And so, not that the other isn't, but so we made plans for me to come back, and I took my bass player and my drummer, and that's how we recorded what became The Power of 3. And I felt like that came out so well. First of all, like the way we recorded it onto tape and recorded it live in the studio. He says, Fleming said, I want to do this all analog. I want to make this like, I would have made an album back in the day. Mm-hmm. And he said he told me that he used one of the tapes that he never used on Master of Puppets. Well, that must have been what I was hearing. Yes, that's kind of funny that you say that. Because in Justice for All, he did in L.A. Okay. That was done in L.A. Only Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets were recorded there in Copenhagen. And it is all the same equipment, same mics. Man, I don't know. My ear perked up, and I said, I got to know what's going on here. And that's just really funny to know that it was done on the same equipment, and that you, even today, we're recording on tape, because I didn't even know that you were doing that, or that you were on the same equipment. So that's wonderful. I wanted to make it as good as I could make it, because I figured, hey, look, I'm going to make one heavy album just to kind of say that I did that. But then I was like, man, this is really coming out great. Yeah. Now, at the same time, here's another one of those just weird kind of stories. Well, Rachel Fine from the Howard Stern Show tweeted out something like ultimate Christmas dinner guests. like when they would do a hashtag and you say that. And so she had me and Brian Slagle on the same list. And I was like, oh, Brian's on Twitter. What's he up to? And we started following each other, and then we started talking, and we had met a couple of times throughout the years, and say, hey, well, let's. I was on tour, and I said, hey, I'm going to be off tour soon. When I get back, let's grab dinner or something, grab a couple of drinks. Well, that didn't happen. We weren't able to get together because of scheduling, but when I got back from Copenhagen from recording the album, well, I was sitting there. I think the song was, I don't remember which song it was, but I was sitting there with Fleming. I was like, you know what? I should play this for Brian Slagle.
I'd like to just quickly tell anyone that's maybe not aware who Brian is. That he's the founder of Metal Blade Records. Yes,
he is. Okay. He's the guy. I mean, metal music wouldn't be where it is today without him.
Just in case. Okay, go on. Thank you.
Yeah. So I play the rough recorded tracks for Brian, and I said, what do I do with this? Like, how do you? He's like, well, have you ever sent something to a record label before? I said, no. I said, like, how? Like, you get an address, but for all you know, it's going to go in the trash.
Yeah, right.
And so I played him. I played him, pretty much the whole album. I said, what do I do with this? Who do I send it to? And he said, you need to send it to me. And so that was it. And then that kind of began the process of me signing to Metal Blade.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love that.
So
I love the
there's
way
a
all
lot
those
of
things
little
connect. I love it.
Yeah, there's a lot of little details there. It's not like I played one show and then this happened. There's very precise little details that kind of led to the whole thing.
Well, that's the way. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people don't realize that it almost always is the case, that it's always a really interesting chain of events that lead up to things like that even happening. And like you didn't get to connect with Fleming the first time, but you were able to let his daughter come to the show that evening, and then you're able to kind of stay in touch over time, and then it works out down the road. You kind of plant a seed and then see where it goes, and then look what you get. It's wonderful.
What I've seen as a reoccurring pattern from, I guess you could say, surviving this long somehow is it's all little details that add up. It's all little things that add up. It's not like one big thing. There's actually the saying, the bigger they come, the harder they fall. It reigns true. Like, the bigger something gets immediately, it's like a fire, and you slowly, you build the fire, and then you have to contain it. And if it just burns up really big, it's going to just burn out.
Yeah, I think that's very well put.
That's what I've seen, at least. I'm sure everybody's situation is different too, but that's my view of it.
It is, and maybe I can tie this in then to another question I was thinking about asking, just because we're kind of on the topic, which is, your music has covered a lot of ground over the years. Your other albums leading up to this one, like you said, you've got this acoustic stuff that's wonderful, just some solo material. Then you have your stuff with your group, which you've done with the Power of Three. And not to use the word, but it's eclectic. Like I've going through some of the recordings, and you've got things that branch out into different styles. So I think that you're a musician that's in a great position to relate to a lot of different types of players out there. So what I wanted to ask you was, what do you think these days is one of the most important things for musicians to be paying attention to keeping an eye on? And obviously, like those little details, like you say, but what is it that people need to be paying attention to these days that are in the music biz that are up and coming?
Of bands?
Sure, a band or an artist.
Well, I think that it's always changing. As soon as you've got it, as soon as you think that you've got it figured out, it changes.
Sure.
And what's important is to do, make yourself happy, to do what you want to do. And I mean, if I were to give any advice to anyone, that's the case. Because, it was just 3 years ago. That's not. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot of time. But my second album, it's called Pain, Love, and Destiny. I used Kickstarter to fund that.
I saw that.
And to fund it, and that was a new thing. A lot of people didn't know about that, and it was very successful. It was a lot of work. I was way in over my head because, you know, the income that you bring in, that's, you know, it almost costs that to send out all the CDs and to fulfill all of the incentives.
Exactly. It's a lot of work.
And at first I thought, no, I don't want to ask fans for money, you know, but it's when I saw that, you know, like, well, I could teach guitar lessons online and you could do shows. You know, you just get really creative with it, and it became a lot of fun. Now there's so many things like that, I feel like the attention to it isn't the same because you see so many bands doing that. But that is one huge bonus, is that you can be in complete control of your own music.
Yep.
And what you want to do, and you know, if you have the fan base or whatever fan base you have, that can bring in the revenue for whatever project you're doing. But now,
yeah, and like you said, you can be in complete control of stuffing a whole bunch of CDs too at the end of it.
See, that's the thing. But now, if you're with a record label, nothing can put a price on that promotion and that push and that association.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you know, another thing about just doing what you want to do. Let's say that, because I'm fascinated with music history, especially music history out here in LA. Of like, okay, it was, you know, you had the 70s and you had all these bands, but then Van Halen made it, and then they broke, and then, you know, from there you had, you know, Randy Rhoads leaving Quiet Riot, who were a very, very popular band here, and playing for Ozzy. And that whole situation of what that looked like, because Ozzy had just got kicked out of Black Sabbath. And then you start having, you know, Quiet Riot, and then Rat, and then that led to, well, who's the next big thing? And then a huge bidding war for Motley Crue. And then how that started a scene. But then when you have bands like, you know, Poison and you know, even of Axl Rose coming in, when you have people coming from another city to come here, and to kind of join in that scene of the bands that started here. Well, what if someone wasn't into that kind of music, but then they said, oh, now we got to have big hair, or whatever they did. Now we've got to wear white leather pants, and our video's got to be shot in a loft in downtown LA with our girlfriend as the main person on a car, you know, or something like that. You've got to be true to yourself, and that's why the bands that always come out that really love it because they love it last. And then a lot of the bands, it doesn't work because they're just trying to do whatever's popular for the moment. You know, that's a big thing as far as paying attention to, you know, you've got to be the leader, not a follower.
Well, I wonder if I can ask a question that's kind of tied to that too, which is, I noticed I'm going through the Metal Blade Records artist lineup, and obviously a ton of great groups on there. But what my question is that there's a lot of groups on there, and there's only a few people where it's just their name. And I noticed it's like, you know, Monte Pittman, and there's a few others. And I wanted to kind of just gauge the waters here a little bit in terms of maybe why you've kind of remained like on the solo trajectory, or at least maybe recently, instead of, you know, maybe forming some monstrous metal group that you were kind of in charge of.
Well, number one, Monte Pittman can't break up.
That's well said.
And I'm so tired. I mean, it's really hard getting a band together in LA because you've got so many. You know, to be out here, you've got to keep putting wood in the fire. You've got to keep on to something. You can't just sit around. The thing is, I started playing out acoustic on my own, and it was just Monte Pittman. And that kind of led to, you know, getting better and better shows, better and better set times. And then that led to me playing with a drummer and a bass player and sometimes another guitar player. Mm-hmm. And then that's what led to me doing my second album. But by the time I did my third album, you know, I'd still kind of established that I'm a solo artist.
Yeah.
And that is a double-edged sword in a way, because people you have to really sell people on what you're doing. And I like to do a lot of different things.
Yeah,
I mean,
and with the juggling act of doing the Madonna thing, like you're saying before, like back in the days with Prong, at least when you're off the road with a project like that, you're not fighting another band that is trying to push things up the hill all the time as well.
Yeah, and coming up with a band name, I wouldn't even know where to start. All the good names are taken.
So it's the worst part of the whole business.
But what I thought was really cool, I played at South by Southwest this year, and I met somebody. They go, Monte Pittman. They go, oh, that's your name? I go, yeah. They go, oh, I thought Monte Pittman was the name of the band, like Pittman Mountain. I was like,
oh wow,
that's kind of cool. All right,
that's
well, good.
Great.
I'll leave it at that.
From now on, it's just Monte Pittman, the band. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, as far as a way to kind of, if you were to model your career, I'd say, like, what if Stevie Ray Vaughan played some Metallica? What if Stevie Ray Vaughan did the Four Horsemen from Metallica in his set, but then he also broke it down and he just did Needle in the Damage Done, or he did a song just on the acoustic, where you've got sort of all sides of the spectrum, which still kind of go together. That's one of the things I would kind of model myself after. That sort of idea, like. Yeah.
Well, that sounds
not to say our names in the same sentence, but
that sounds like a hell of a fun challenge to do.
Yeah, I mean, think how awesome that would have been if he would have done that.
Well, before we wrap up, I want to change gears one more time and hit the music gear. Maybe I should have put that towards the front of things, but we got carried away. But obviously, you're rocking the orange amps. You got this like killer spread. And it's the Rocker Verb 100 still for you at the moment?
Yeah, and I've been blending that and the TH30. I use the TH30 on the Power 3.
Oh, cool. Good to know.
I love that you just, less is more, and I love that shape knob where you just turn it all the way to the right and then pull it back again. Mm-hmm. One of the great, prong cleansing, this is before I was in the band. This is just when I was a fan. Prong Cleansing is one of my favorite albums, ever. One of the best guitar tones. I mean, when that first song, when you listen to Another Worldly Device and that guitar starts, and the amp that Tommy Victor used back then was the Marshall 8100. Now, that's a solid state amp, and what was special about that is it had this contour switch, if you remember those amps, and you turn it all the way to the right, and it's just got that awesome sound to it, in my opinion. You scoop the mids, but then the mids are still there. It doesn't make the sound go away.
And you kind of get that off the TH30.
And that's the first time I've seen that in another amp is when Orange introduced that. So the knob, it's called the shape knob, and you just turn it to the right and then pull it back a little, and you just get that magic kind of sound. It makes you want to play. It makes you want to, it's easy to come up with some awesome riffs just because it sounds so good. But I'll split those. I'll use the Rocker Verb 100 and a TH30 into the Orange cabinets.
Yeah.
And I've been with Orange over 10 years now.
Yeah.
I started playing Orange because I was getting a guitar repaired at True Tone Music in Santa Monica, and they were the Orange dealer. And so while I was waiting, I started playing through one, and I thought it would have been a perfect amp for Madonna. That's where it all started, because it has such a great clean tone to it, and it's got a great distortion. It's got both, and I don't always see that in amps. Usually the better distortion sound, the worse clean sound you're going to have.
Right, or the better the clean is, the worse the distortion sound is.
Yeah, it's one or the other, and this was the closest to being perfect in both sides. And if you have to use a lot of pedals, clean is very transparent. It doesn't color the sound too much. It still sounds like that's what the amp should sound like.
Mm-hmm. And your signature guitar series that you have. Would you tell folks a little bit about that at the moment?
Yeah, that's a new company. It's a new company called Jarrell Guitars, and we did that, starting a few years ago. The guitar is called the MPS. You can find that on the Jarrell website.
These are mean-looking guitars. These are great.
It is. I've just signed on with ESP. I'm an ESP guy now.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, I did the move, and but it was great working with Jarrell. I mean, they're awesome, and I know the best is yet to come with them.
So will there be a signature ESP forthcoming?
Who knows? Maybe one day. I mean, I'm just kind of getting started with them. They have this new guitar or this new line called the E2 guitars, or it's the ESP E2 series, and that's their guitar that's made in Japan.
Okay, yeah.
And, if I have my information correct, the ESPs are just the USA guitars now.
Okay.
And I had never played an ESP, and I mean, what's funny is, I guess where I grew up, we didn't have those in the stores. Everybody had Strats and Gibsons and Ibanez are pretty much the guitars. But funny enough, the bands that I listened to played ESP, like Slayer, Metallica. I mean, what else would you need? And
that's kind of enough of a recommendation, I would say.
Yeah, there you go. And I played, well, the thing is, I saw this guitar, it's called it was time to, it's kind of a free agent, and I saw that FRX, and I was like, wow, I've never seen a guitar that looks like that. They have had that shape for a while, I just hadn't seen it. And I played one at the NAMM show, and then, I like the idea of a guitar company that has so many different guitars. They have V's, they have a, what would be a Les Paul style body, that's their Eclipse. Yeah. And they've got a Strat, which I've never been a Strat guy. I've never really had a Strat until recently. I just got a cheap Strat just to kind of have one. And so I like, especially with, the future of where I'm headed as far as my contribution with Madonna, like I want to kind of bring some of that into the mix. Mm-hmm. So that's great. But I just started playing the FRX series, and man, that is just, it's made my playing just, because every guitar is inspiring to play in a different way. Yeah. If you play a Strat, there's a certain thing you're going to get out of it. You play a Les Paul, you play all those things, you're going to get it's going to make you play a certain way.
Sure. But,
with ESP, it's been very unique. And so this is where I am today, and this is where I'm going. And it's great. It's made me want to really get better with my leads, sit and work on all these scales that, I haven't really played in a while. Sure,
yeah. Well, I wish you luck getting into the shed, and I hope that you find some time between all the other things that you're doing. If practice time is really what you're hoping to get right now, I hope you find the time to do it.
We're just trying to, always trying to make myself better.
Yeah, that's
I just saw something online with Chris Broderick, and just how some of his tapping, and I was like, I need to sit down and like work some of that out, because it's kind of always been too much. I'm kind of a less is more kind of guy. I'll take David Gilmour over just about anybody.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. The tapping I do is absolutely non-traditional, but it's something I enjoy doing, but I can't imagine anybody else wants to do it.
But it's still good. It's a good thing. You got to blow up the Death Star at the end of the movie. You know what I mean? You got to have that.
Sometimes that thing just needs to get burst wide open. That's awesome. Well, Monte, I'm going to leave you with one more question. We've been asking this to everybody, and we've had a lot of fun people, and I got to ask this to Santana like a week or two ago. It was a lot of fun. So I'll just ask you this. What is music? What is music to Monte Pittman, or what is music? What is it to you?
Music is the closest thing to magic that I think you can get to. It is, well, I mean, it's one thing that, with the color, if I showed you a piece of paper that was green, we would all agree that it was green. Mm-hmm. But with music, you play that for different people, they're going to have a different opinion, although it's still the same thing.
Yep.
Music is a collection of vibrations and frequencies, just like everything is. The chair you sit at is vibrating at a frequency. Every sound that you hear is vibrating at a frequency. Every color that you see is vibrating at a frequency. And I guess the best way to put it is, it's what I say about teaching. I teach a lot of kids, mm-hmm. Between 5 and 15 years old, and I always say it's the closest thing to magic that you'll ever get. One of my favorite things to show my students is when you look at harmonics. There's one. I use this kind of as a trivia question with them. There's one note that vibrates that comes out at the same frequency that occurs 3 times on one string, and what is it? And it's an F sharp. You can get an F sharp right at the 2nd fret. You get it right at the 14th fret, and you get it right before, or right kind of on the outside of the bridge pickup. Now you get a B twice. You get a B at the 7th fret, and you get it at the 21st fret. But then the next one goes an octave higher. And so I'll show that, and I mean that's what I think of it. It's the closest thing to magic that we get.
Oh, I love your answer. I think that's wonderful.
Maybe I have too much time on my hands. I don't know.
No, not at all. This is spoken like somebody who's spent a lot of time with.
I should spend more time tapping rather than figuring out what the frequency of every harmonic is.
Oh God, no! Just keep doing your thing. It's great. Don't join the tapping ensemble just quite yet. But have fun getting better at it.
It's always fun. I mean, there's so much to learn that you by the time you've learned one thing, you forget about it. Like I was just brushing up on whole tone scales.
Oh,
because the music I play, I don't play a lot of it. I know the scales and I know what it does. I don't really play it a lot.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when people ask, "Hey, can you read music?" Like, well, yeah, I can, but I can't tell you when the last time I did that was. Yeah, you
have to stay up on it.
It's like speaking a language. If you learn how to speak Russian, but then you're not around it a lot, then when you're back around, it's like, wait, how did that go again? What's really cool about whole tone scales is you can play an augmented chord for every one of the notes.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there's only
cool.
And there's only what is it? Well, there's only 2 of them.
Yeah, and I never picked that up before. So it's kind of like learning something again that you've already learned or something that you missed.
Yeah, that stuff's fun. Well, for anybody listening in the LA area, make sure you contact Monte about having him rush through LA traffic to come over and show you all about how this stuff works. And
if you go to my website MontePittman.com, it's got all the details on there. Because I'll come to your house and teach, and I've been teaching at the School of Rock on Wednesdays in the South Bay.
Oh, cool.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
All right.
That's a great organization there.
So it's MontePittman.com. People can take a look at what you're doing, right?
That's right. Yep, they can find it. There's we got a video for the track Before the Morning Sun that's on there. We got the SoundCloud page. It's on Spotify everywhere. Metalblade.com/Monte Pittman, so you can get the album, you get the physical CD. That way you can read the lyrics, and nothing beats the smell of a CD when you take out that booklet. It smells a lot better than your iPod.
My iPod, smells horrible. Monte, thanks so much for your time today, man, and thanks so much for being part of the Gold Rush 2014 experience. And thank you, listeners, for taking a listen today, and good luck to everybody that's entered. And we hope everybody wins something fun. And Monte, thanks again for being with us today.
Thanks again, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. All the best with everything you're doing, okay? We'll be watching.
Yeah, man. Same to you. All the best, and I hope to cross paths with you sooner or later.
All right. That'd be great.
It's a small world out there. Okay. All right. Have a good one. Talk to you later.
You too. Take care.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Bye.